now you mentioned before when we spoke that at one point you were homeless, right?
Yes,
You
sir.
how did
Yeah.
that come about?
So there are actually two two phases of my life where I dealt with that,
Okay.
right? And so I ended up leaving my aunt's house before I graduated high school,
Okay.
right? So shortly before graduation, things came to a head
Hmm.
and I just hit the streets,
And you
right?
didn't see.
And I felt like I could do that because at the time I was making friends
Hmm.
who were they 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 had support systems, but they chose to be in the streets, like in Brownsville and Bed-Stuy and places like that. Like it just seemed like we could hang out all night at various basements and
Yeah,
things like that, right?
Flatbush is like that too.
Flatbush, yeah, man. That's where. So I was in all of them places, and
Okay.
so I had left and technically without any set location,
Hmm.
going to school, freshening up in school, um, leaving school, going to another chick's house to go freshen up, that
Okay.
kind of thing, right?
Right. Right.
And so that was kind of a choice, right? Things came to a head in the household, and I left. And I still had the refuge of school. So
Hmm.
between certain hours, I'm at Robeson. I'm the first one there because I freshen up in the bathroom and I need to have breakfast.
Okay.
So I went to Paul Robeson High School. I don't know if you guys remember Paul
Yeah,
Robeson.
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. And I ran track. I ran track and field.
Y'all
And
always had a
so,
good track team, man.
yeah, man, Robeson was a good track team. So I got to school early
Yeah.
and I left school late.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when I left school, I was living like a grown man, but we don't know. I was just, yo, where you at? What's going on? Like, are you at 2 first? Are you on Lennox? I'm coming over and I'm there till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm hanging out. I'm sleeping in somebody's chair, going to school the next day.
Wow.
The next instance is a few years after that. And all of this is without papers, right? Being an illegal immigrant. So a few years after that, after I left high school, I ended up, like working menial jobs. I ended up renting a room close to King's Plaza by King's Highway and Utica.
Okay.
Lived over there for a while.
Okay.
And this is this is how I started to understand how sensible people end up.
Hmm.
Because there are no drugs or no, like, so you got to ask yourself, like, how do sensible people end up in situations like these? And I'm a young person. I got to be 21, 22 or
Hmm.
so.
Okay.
I'm living around the corner, Kings Highway and Utica Avenue,
Hmm.
New York Avenue, in that vicinity by Betty Israel. You remember where Betty Israel Medical Center was? I
Yeah.
rented
Yeah,
a room over
I
there.
know
Yep.
exactly what you talk about.
Hmm.
Yep. I rented a room over there
Wow.
and I had a job off the books,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Well, it wasn't technically off the books. If you dig deeper into the story and connect the dots, I had connections that got me certain jobs,
Yeah.
right? Certain
Right.
jobs and things, but I still did not have my documents,
Hmm.
right? So I had a job and ended up being laid off, but couldn't be moved forward because how I got that job is because I didn't have the proper documents anyway. So I was just only supposed to remain with that job, right?
Right.
With that position. So I ended up being laid off
Hmm.
and I couldn't get another job.
All right.
And so I ended up selling CDs on the corner of Kings Highway and Utica Avenue by the bus stop.
That was you,
Right?
man. That was you. Now,
I
I
sold
remember that
CDs there for a while.
man.
Yeah.
What was that, the B-46?
Yeah.
Right. So if you remember now, it looks
Yeah.
different, but back in the day, there were two gas stations across from each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
It just
One
happened
was a
to be.
rinky-dink. One was a rinky-dink gas station. It was a rinky-dink old-looking gas station.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I spoke to that guy, and he allowed me to set up a table by the bus stop, but on his property,
Oh,
right?
oh,
Uh,
Manly.
hmm?
Oh, Manly.
Manly?
That's the guy's name, Manly.
I don't know the guy's name. The guy who ran that bus stop is a white guy. He was old, an old white guy.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. All right.
The guy
My bad.
who ran the gas station.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. And so I paid him $50 a week. I went to 14th Street
Wow.
because I had a friend who was selling CDs on Church Avenue before. So he gave me his connect. I got CDs and DVDs in 14th Street. And I took those CDs back and I was selling CDs on the street corner. And I was able to like cover my rent for a while, but after a while I just could not live off of it. And so that was my second time I ended up just putting out all my furniture and just hitting the road.
So let me ask you about that, man. And Alan, you can jump in anytime you want to, right? What when you say homeless, you talking about you like living on the street?
Ride the trains, yes, sir.
So
ride the train, sleeping in the parks. Yeah.
So we obviously being in New York, growing up in New York, like you see that, homelessness or people on the trains, like you take that for granted, right? Like you're not, sometimes you assume the person might be mentally ill or something like that. But then obviously the situation is like this. So what was that like for you? And you were like what, in your early 20s then, you said?
Early 20s, yep.
So you're on the sleeping on the train. What kind of things you encountered?
I encountered a lot of things, man. A lot of things. And then and then you definitely reach a point where you feel like things start to like, because you start to smell yourself. At some point, you're not showering as often as you used to. So then you know you're not an addict. Yeah. You know you're none of the stereotypical things that you would see or know people that if I'm sleeping on this number 2 train, right? You're thinking to yourself, like you're remembering the school you went to in Jamaica. You're remembering everything and thinking, there's no way this is not how it was supposed to turn out. Right? I've seen all of the stereotypical drugs things that you would encounter. People shooting up. My first look at what crack was like I only knew crack from movie and TV and I never, like, you know what I mean? Like before that, I could only speak about crack from rap lyrics. Right? I could only speak about those things from rap lyrics. I would only see people like tie up their wrist from movies. I didn't even know if that shit was real because it's movie, right? So you have to open mind. But when you see it in real life, it's a whole different thing. Right? I saw those things. Yeah.
Do people do that on the train?
I saw that on the train.
Yeah.
New York City subway.
All right.
I mean, I'm from New York, so I know. I'm just saying.
New York City subway.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
I think
So
that 6th train is the worst, though.
Yeah, I mean, I never really rode the 6th train unless, I had friends in the Morrison Soundview areas of the Bronx, but yeah. I would frequent the 2 trains a lot. Because I felt comfortable with that train. It took me to Bronx, to the last stop where there were a lot of Jamaicans, and it took me to the last stop in Brooklyn where there were a lot of Jamaicans. And so I was familiar with both ends of the 2 train.
Gotcha.
You know? Yeah.